Hello, Sugar River, and welcome to the Virtual Wellness Fair as we embark on this year of living well. This is our 6th video we release each Wednesday with a new guest as we discuss the 8 dimensions of the Living Compass Wellness Program. Our guest today is Jerry Deschane, and we are discussing the topic of mind vocation. Remember to stay to the end to get your clue for the crossword puzzle game as part of the Wellness Fair. Enjoy. Hello, Sugar River. My name is Elizabeth Yanke, and I'm joined today by Jerry Deschane. Jerry is husband, father, grandfather, executive director of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. He's a member at St. Anne's Catholic Church in Stoughton, along with his wife, Linda. And I know you're on at least 5 different boards of directors, Jerry. What other titles should we know about you, or what other things should we know about you?
I would just say perpetually running behind is all. I like Grandpa best of all, but I'll take whatever else comes.
Okay. And full disclosure, I also work at the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, so Jerry is actually my boss.
But you're not holding that against me today, right?
No, not today. Actually, today we're going to discuss the Living Compass topic of mind vocation and basically finding your purpose at work, in education, and volunteering. And something that President Theodore Roosevelt said was, far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard and work worth doing. So, Jerry, I know you've had a few careers in your lifetime. Tell us a little bit about those, about some of your history, and how you've made those transitions from one to another.
Sure. There's sort of a logical progression to it all, although it's not necessarily obvious. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, always lived in Wisconsin, by the way, wouldn't live anywhere else. But I grew up in a small village with a population of about just under 1,000 people. And my parents, my mother and father, both were involved in local government. My dad was on the village board. My mom was the village treasurer for a while. I have a brother who was the village president for a long time and village treasurer and a variety of other things. But I went to work in radio broadcasting for the wonderful family sustaining wage of $150 a week, I think it was when it started. But I sort of evolved out of that career after we started to have children, went to work for state government for about 6 or 7 years. But the bulk of my career has been spent in communications and advocacy. Mm-hmm. I worked as a lobbyist for the housing industry for a long, long time. But then I sort of landed almost in some ways back where I started from. I went to work for the League as the executive director. And I have to tell you that this is probably, in terms of vocations, the one paying job that I feel most called to. Local government, democracy it's sort of the essence of humanity. It's us getting together and deciding together what needs to be done collectively, as opposed to me, starting my own business, building my own house. So I see local government as sort of the expression of citizenship. And my job, your job, Elizabeth, everyone that works in the League is, the way I put it is, our job is to help them do their job. Whatever they need from us by way of education or information or legal information is what we provide to local governments in Wisconsin. So a long way of saying, I'm back where I started I'm back where I started from a long, long time ago and loving it.
Good. Well, glad to hear. And thank you for sharing that. So each time you've made one of these transitions in your career, how did you discern that it was the right time or the right one, and that it aligned with the values that you wanted to live by? And did your faith play into that?
Oh, absolutely. I would, and all of these decisions were not solo decisions, they were partnership decisions.
Mhm.
Linda, you mentioned my wife, Linda. Linda and I have been married for over 40 years. We're high school sweethearts, and we're sort of a unit. We work together on these things. But my career changes have sort of occurred at moments that was a combination of opportunity and restlessness.
Mhm.
After a few years in a given position, I would start to get a little itchy and wonder, is there something else I should be doing? I'm a daily prayer, so I would make that part of my conversation with Christ in the morning.
Mhm.
Is this where you want me? Is this where I should be, or should I be looking for something else? And just about every time, if I should be looking for something else, a new opportunity will appear
Mhm.
and we'll head down that path. Um, and if not, I take that as a sign that I need to take a new look at how I'm doing what I'm doing, or perhaps what I'm leaving out.
Yeah, thank you. Do you now or have you ever had a written purpose for your life or any guiding values that drive those choices in your vocation?
Yes. Um, and this has been stated a variety of ways. Mother Teresa has talked about it, but I really try to, in both what I do for money and what I do as a volunteer, I try to leave it better than it was when I found it. That's a Boy Scout principle. It's a faith principle. I mean, it's sort of, I take it as a universal principle in the universe. When I'm done doing my work for the league, when I move on from where I am, the best compliment that I could receive was that somebody said, you know what, they're better than they were when he started. And that's really what I want to accomplish. When I pass away, and you can see gray hair, I'm not going to live forever. Um, that's what I want people to write on my tombstone, is that his little teeny tiny corner of the world is just a little bit better than it was before he got here. Mother Teresa is one of my favorites, and I know Elizabeth, she's one of yours as well. But she once said, never let a person come to you without leaving better and happier for having met you. And I probably botched that quote, but it's words that convey the same sense, that on a personal basis, on a one-on-one basis, our thought should always be, what does the other person need that I have to offer? What can I offer that will help them on their journey? Because again, that's sort of why we're all here, as far as I'm
Mhm.
concerned.
I think you touched on this at the beginning, but I wanted to ask, your current role as executive director at the league, how does that fit into your bigger purpose for your life?
It fits even better than I thought it would. um,
Okay.
I have to tell you, and I know everybody in the office knows this story, but when the headhunter first called and said, this position is opening up, and I said, yeah, I'm aware of the league. And they said, well, would you consider applying? And I said, no. I said, no, I work in the private sector, you're public sector.
Yeah.
I frankly have lobbied against the league off and on over the years. You don't want me. But boy, that was an example where I clearly wasn't listening to the Lord,
Yeah.
because what I do, I consider now a calling. I really, really do. We're working with citizens, which is everybody, to figure out the best way to move forward on everything from childcare to ambulance service to the thickness of blacktop so that it won't degrade and you'll have potholes. I mean, it's mundane things like that,
Yeah.
but it really is a calling to try to help people do this better.
Yeah. Great. I know you are a big believer in knowing your strengths and definitely helping your staff play to their strengths. And as we think about someone who's kind of still new in their career, how how does someone go about finding their strengths or knowing what their strengths are? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, don't take as long to do it as I did.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, and it's an evolving thing too, right? I mean, what I
Mhm.
thought my strengths were in my 30s is different than what I see in my 60s. And I don't know if that's because I've developed new strengths or I've just slowed down and listened more. Well, first of all, sort of the mechanics of it. There are tests you can take, the
Mhm.
Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs.
Mhm.
There's a lot of those sorts of things. But in thinking about this question, Elizabeth, one of the things that occurred to me is, the old expression of being in your groove. When you're doing what you really love to do,
Mhm.
whether that's writing or problem solving or working with other people or cooking or my son is a mechanic and he absolutely loves what he does.
Yeah.
There's a feeling of being in tune.
Yeah.
It's really being in harmony with what you're doing. um I am a real fan of listening to that.
Mm.
We call it mindfulness, you can call it meditation, you can call it prayer, where you're actually listening to the
Mhm.
answer. A lot of us are real good at talking when we pray, but we're terrible at listening, which is really ironic and funny when you consider who it is you're talking to. Um, but someone who is trying to figure out what they're good at, my first bit of advice is slow down, think about what you love, think about what you absolutely love to do. And then when you're spending time in prayer, hush, stop talking and listen. And over my careers, I have found that there's sort of a pattern and a progression to it all.
Mm.
I will admit that I see this in hindsight. I didn't really see it coming, but the direction is there if you listen for it. And then frankly, you just dive in and really throw yourself at what you love. And if you're wrong, you'll figure it out. It won't work out. The job will be a disaster, or you'll find yourself, feeling miserable and, throwing your notebook away when you walk in the door. That's a sign that you don't belong in that job.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Definitely. And you talked about evolving over time. And I know growth and learning are such an important part of our humanity. And I know it's important for you personally as well. You model that growth and learning. I appreciate that. How do you make it a priority in your life? And how do you go about seeking opportunities that help you grow?
wow. How do I just kind of do, because otherwise I'd go crazy. I love to learn. I you know I it, the books behind me aren't just props. I mean, I really do love to read. I'm always looking for new ideas. Um, but since this is a faith conversation, I will say that it starts first thing in the morning with prayer. I
Mm.
mean, my life works better when I spend that half hour, 40 minutes reading inspirational and spiritual books, talking to God, but then listening. I mean, and listening is the hard one because we all want to kind of flit off and, go do our thing. But when you really take the time to stop and listen, even if you don't think you're hearing anything, you're getting guidance and you're sort of being straightened and pushed in the right direction. So trust it. and use it. I wish I'd done more of that through my life.
I know I'm not trying to advocate that you get ready for retirement by any means. But
Oh, is that what this interview is
no,
for?
no, no. But as you think about that and moving forward into that eventually, when you're ready, not anytime soon. When
When
I'm
I'm
ready,
given permission by my wife, Elizabeth, that's really what it comes down to.
yeah. How do you see your vocation, your purpose, your calling change as you transition into that phase of life?
Yeah, and I'm just sort of at the threshold of beginning to have that kind of conversation with myself, and and with God and with my spouse. So I don't really know for sure, Elizabeth,
Yeah,
because retirement for me is still, it's a ways out. It's not too far out because I love what I do.
yeah,
And of course, you're asking me to tell you what my plans are, because as soon as I do that, you're going to hear God in the background giggling, right? Oh yeah, that's what you think you're going to do? No, 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 no. But if I had my way, and if I could say, okay, what's the ideal post-league job for Jerry? It would be spreading the word about servant leadership. This is the Robert Greenleaf approach to leadership that I really think is important.
yeah,
And it's beginning to take hold throughout Wisconsin. And it's not just a government thing, it's a private thing, it's a nonprofit thing. It's just a way of approaching leadership that involves being a servant first. And I've taken a number of classes in that. I'm reading a number of books on that. I'm part of a couple of different working groups. So an ideal for me would be to spend time and effort helping spread the word about servant leadership and how it can help us all sort of come back from this angst that we've been living under for so long. But also, I think it holds the key to really effective citizenship. So that's kind of where I'd like to go.
sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully not anytime soon.
No, not anytime soon. But there again, that's my plan. Who knows
Yeah,
where
that's
we'll
right.
really end up.
This is such a full topic, and we could talk for a really long time about this mind vocation. And I want to thank you for spending time with me to talk about it. Do you have any last words of wisdom for us before we depart?
No, other than pray and listen. Don't forget the listening part, both during your prayer time, but I would say also, if you're looking for a sign of something, listen what's going on around you with sort of your mind on the direction that you're seeking. God will send you signs. You got to be careful. You don't want to slice open a tomato and think, oh, I saw a sign. Well,
Yeah,
maybe not like that, but you will get direction, but you need to pay attention. So I guess pay attention to what's going on in the people around you.
yeah, great. Well, Jerry Deschane, Executive Director of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that you spent some time with us, and enjoy your day.
Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I want to once again thank Jerry Deschane for his words on mind and vocation. It was such a blessing to have him be part of this wellness fair. It is now time for our crossword puzzle clue. It is 9 across. Again, 9 across. Blank or false. God desires we live for this blank self. Again, 9 across. Blank or false. God desires we live for this blank self. Again, find the crossword puzzle in the e-source along with another clue Make sure you watch and read to collect all the clues from the 8 weeks of our virtual wellness fair. Turn in your complete puzzle for a chance to win a prize in the final drawing. And please do join us in person or online Sundays at 9:30 a.m. for our weekly worship. Thank you for joining us today on this adventure in the year of living well.